Markets, well, we did slip into the red momentarily, but we bounced back from those levels. Remember that in the earlier part of the day, we actually managed to hit 11,500 for the first time since February. Now we're just about at 11,476. The Sensex clocking in 73 points of gains. Lupin is in focus. It has received the USFDA approval for the albuterol generic. How important is this drug for Lupin? What sort of earnings can it gather up and shore up for Lupin? Let's go across to Pankaj Podar for that.
Well, let's talk about Lupin and why the stock is in focus today. Now, when we just look at really what's happened with Lupin, ProAir is one of the important inhaler drug that they have, which they have guided to the market that by September end they should be getting the approval. That much awaited approval has actually come in. ProAir has got approved. It's also known as Albuterol. It's an inhaler drug that we are talking about. It's one of the most complex inhalers to actually get an approval, and that's why the street was in two minds whether it will come in or not. They have constantly been guiding, saying that we are pretty sure it will come in, and finally that approval has come in. So globally, it's a market of about $2 billion. In US, Lupin says it's greater than about $1 billion, but some of the pharma experts believe that the market size has now shrunk, so it's close to about $750 million. That's because of some of the pricing pressure coming in, some of the new players coming in. Cipla got an approval in Q1, and now it's Lupin. So there is always a price cut that happens with the new players. So that's why that is something which there will be a market dichotomy on. But nevertheless, it contributes about 50 million, or expected to contribute about 40 to 50 million as far as Lupin is concerned for FY21. It's a high margin business, and more importantly, it tells about the complex ability in the inhaler space for Lupin, and that's why it's an important drug that one is talking about. So complex ability of the company, the R&D spend that they have done earlier will all now start to get monetized. So that's something which the street is focusing in on. As of now, upgrades are unlikely because they had completely guided for it. It has come in on time, and that's why maybe upgrades may not come in, but of course it's a sentimental boost when you just talk about some important approvals coming in for a company like Lupin.
All right. Thank you, Pankaj, for so succinctly explaining the importance of this drug approval for Lupin. Remember that Lupin was confident; it had already been guiding for it. Pardon me, and now it has come in bang in time. So you may not see really big brokerage, upgrades or anything coming in, but it's an important drug. So let's talk about the size of this drug in the United States. If it is indeed now seeing some pricing pressure come in, as it's yet another player, Lupin, that is entering the market. And what does it essentially denote in terms of Lupin's own abilities to be able to, cement its space in a very complex inhaler drug? We have with us Vishal Manchanda of Nirmal Bang Securities. Vishal, a pleasure having you with us today on ET Now. So let's just get in your overall take on this. It's something that Lupin had been guiding, and now it's come through. How important, how big, based on your assessment, is this drug for Lupin?
So this drug addresses a very large market. So based on the IMS number, the market is about $2.3 billion. But after accounting for rebates and discounts that these companies have to pay on the drug to the wholesalers, the actual target market is about $1 billion. And if we look at the competition, we have about 9 players in the space. So 3 players are innovators. There are 3 other authorized generics and 3 generic drugs which are approved by the USFDA. So among the ones that are approved by the USFDA, Lupin is the most recent entrant, and we saw Cipla entering ahead of Lupin some time back, and there is another player, Perrigo, from the US, which is also competing for a share of the pie. I think the Indian players, Cipla and Lupin, have an upper edge in terms of the ability to price it and basically sustain even at lower prices. So that is one advantage, and these guys have experience in producing such respiratory inhalers on a larger scale. So I think once the opportunity ramps up, I think it would be about $50 to $100 million sales opportunity, and it would be very sticky on the base. So unlike we see large opportunities scaling up and then coming off, we will not see that happening in case of albuterol sulfate. It will continue to be on the base, and it will be like it's a number that they can sustain for the next 10 years, basically. So pretty meaningful approval, and but it's in the earnings forecast largely for most brokers. So hence, we'll not see an upgrade on the EPS.
Yes, that's true. So 50 to 100 million sales opportunity. Lupin had already been guiding for it because they were confident about this drug coming through, and more importantly, it's sticky on the base, which means these sales will sustain. It will not sort of taper off after year one of the approval. What sort of pricing pressure, Vishal, if any, do you witness? I know you mentioned that Lupin and Cipla will be the stronger guys because they will be able to take some pressure on the pricing. But do you anticipate any significant pricing pressure?
Yeah, so what I'm building here is about a 50% price erosion to the existing prices. And I think once that happens, the market share will consolidate in favor of Indian players at that level of price erosion.
Okay, 50% price erosion, and the market will consolidate then largely around the two Indian players, Cipla and Lupin. I would like to understand what sort of margins as well do you think this product can build in? It's a complex drug, so it does carry high margins as well. So what are you penciling on that front?
A complex drug, but once we kind of model for the price erosion, we would see the basic EBITDA margins for the opportunity to be around, say, 55 to 60% for the Indian players, and it would be much higher than what the existing margin these companies report. So Lupin has an EBITDA margin in the range of 16 to 20%. Last quarter was not good for Lupin, but this is what they have been reporting so far. So it will be kind of margin accretive, significantly higher on the margins.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You're almost talking about 55%. That's definitely significantly higher. Like we've been talking, it's quite a complex drug. Do you think this is not just sort of a positive for Lupin, from the financials front, but also the fact that it proves Lupin's ability to be able to be in this space which require high intellectual abilities or high complexities? Do you think it sort of provides you some comfort on that front as well when it comes to Lupin?
Yeah, so it does validate their capabilities in developing inhalation assets which are device-based for the US markets. And Lupin has a pipeline of such assets that they are developing, and a few of them are also in the advanced stage apart from this Pro-Air, they have other filings also in the respiratory inhalation side. So I think with this approval coming through, there is a good chance they would be able to execute other approvals also. And these would also be kind of as attractive or even more attractive than what Pro-Air is. But I think in the near term, this is the large approval, and the other approvals should start probably, we should see them happening in FY22 time frame. There's one large approval in Europe that they're expecting by end of this financial year. So we think even that should get executed, so this basically raises the confidence in the other approvals that are expected.
Great. Vishal, many thanks for joining us today, and just sort of sharing with us your take on this important drug approval that has come in for Lupin. Lupin as well has been a big gainer, in these last 6 odd months. It has climbed from, those lows of, I think, 550 odd rupees. It went beyond 1,000 rupees, and now it's just roughly at about 977 rupees. Okay, well, let's talk then about the big movers and shakers. We already did flag off Lupin, and like I mentioned, it did see a spike in the earlier part of the trading session once this news hit the exchanges. But since then, it's cooled off a tad bit, and now it's at 977. Take a look at an SBI, a State Bank of India, and this one definitely is catching a lot of eyeballs because it's yet another big brokerage upgrade that is coming in for State Bank of India. Today, it's Goldman Sachs that seems to be pretty optimistic on the counter. They're talking about valuations and several other factors as well. But yeah, it's a big upgrade, and mind you, you the target price as well. They're looking at a target of 280 rupees. So that's almost a 40 to 50% upside, if I'm not mistaken, on State Bank of India, which currently is clocking in gains of 3.5%. It's at the day's high and is sitting at 208. Goldman Sachs has a target of 282. So like I mentioned, almost a 40% upside from the current levels. And today it's one of the top Nifty gainers as well. The other big, gainer is Max Financial. Of course, there's that news with respect to Axis Bank and the deal with Max Life. But CLSA as well has upgraded the stock to a buy, target at 720 rupees, which as well has been hiked. They think that the revised deal structure is now getting them one step closer to a deal. From Axis Bank's perspective, the stake is lower, but Axis Bank does retain control. And fundamentally, according to CLSA, Max Financial has improved its premium mix. The stock price is gaining in double digits. LIC Housing Finance, let's take a look at that stock. Remember, this one is a result candidate, came out with its Q1 numbers. What exactly have they done, and how were the numbers? Well, the profit after tax came in at 815 crores, 817.5 crores rather, higher compared to the corresponding quarter, 610 crores. The NII as well, calculated NII did bump up a tad bit. Provisions too, though, were higher compared to the previous quarter, but compared to the corresponding quarters, 253 crore. Current quarters came in only at 56.5 crores. So definitely quite a dip in provisions, which may be one of the reasons that the stock is doing well. And finally, let's take a look at Phoenix Mills. While all of these stocks that I flagged off earlier have been gaining, Phoenix Mills is actually not really seeing a lot of momentum, or rather it's actually down in trade among the top losers. ET now exclusive meantime, which has been broken and has we've got it right once again. In fact, your channel was able to access the term sheets for the sale of shares by promoter group entities. Two promoter entities were likely to sell stake in the company, which was pegged at around 665 odd crore rupees. This is at an 8% discount compared to Monday's close. We had a block deal that came by today, and the stock price is down in trade. But you know what? Let me go across to my colleague Vivek Iyer, who broke this story earlier and got it right. Vivek, give us the details.
As soon as market opened today morning, Phoenix Mills was the stock in focus on the back of the fact that two of the promoter group entities exited a significant chunk of their holding. In fact, one of the promoter group, that is the Radhakrishna Ramnarayan Private Limited, exited almost their entire stake as far as Phoenix Mills is concerned. Earlier today morning, we had reported pre-open that we had accessed the term sheet via sources, and we had told you about how two promoter group entities were looking to sell stake in the company. So the base deal size was pegged at 5.8% with an upsize option, and we understand that over 8% of equity has traded or has exchanged hands as per block deal that has happened on the exchanges. Also, the other thing to keep an eye out for, most likely it is two of the promoter entities, Radhakrishnan Ramnarayan, as well as Senior Advisory Services, that have exited a significant chunk of their holding. Now, this is a little surprising on the back of the fact that just a couple of days ago, the company had actually gone ahead and raised a little over 1100 crore via a QIP, and in this particular QIP, almost 40% of the entire chunk was actually picked up by the government of Singapore. So Phoenix Mills, is in the news for significant fundraising activities, block deals, and it's an ET Now news break that we had got via sources, and that has been confirmed as the block deal has been done. It'll be interesting to wait and watch for the block deal data that is updated by the exchanges post-market hours.